So this journalist, Piers Morgan, who sat at the head of the Daily Mirror newspaper at the height of the rape gang scandal in our country. Are we supposed to believe he didn't know there was a rape gang scandal in our country? He did not report on it. He hacked dead children's phones. He doctored pictures of our armed forces for torturing Iraqi prisoners, proven that he doctored them. So all these things, and yet he wants to look down and sneer down his nose upon me and my journalism.
Tommy Robinson is here to tell us what is happening with Piers Morgan. This is a video you do not want to miss. I'm the other Barak coming to you live and direct here from the Holy Land in Israel. 80% of you are not subscribed to this channel. You're going to miss out on 3 to 4 videos every single day. Press that subscribe button. It takes no more than 5 seconds. Press that bell icon so that you can get informed and don't miss out on any of this action. Last but not least, a link to join my newsletter is in the description of this video. It is completely free. You'll get information and access to me and my life that I don't share otherwise. Let's get into the...
What's happening with Piers Morgan?
What's happening with Piers? I don't know, he's irrelevant, isn't he? He is, isn't he? Do you know what? He changes like the wind. He's like, what does he actually believe? Do you know what I mean? He's pro-Israel, he's against Israel, pro-Black Lives Matter, against Black Lives Matter, pro-vaccine, against the vaccine, lockdowns, against the lockdowns. It's like, what does he even believe?
Do you think he just jumps on the bandwagon to get views?
He jumps on the bandwagon and get views, and I think everyone sees that. Do you know what I mean? And I'd say that Piers is if I could describe him in media terms, he's a dinosaur.
I actually watched him on the Tyson, I think he was on Mike Tyson podcast, and he was sitting smoking a joint. He was actually talking all right. I think when you're in the media, I think it must fuck with your mind, because you can't just follow your heart. You can't just follow what you want instead of following the narratives. He seems to jump with the crowds.
Well, he was in my film Silenced, and what he did when a 15-year-old boy, remember this, a school playground incident happened where one boy poured a bottle of water on another boy. He used his daytime TV platform to demand severe retribution against the racist vermin. He described a 15-year-old kid as vermin. Remember, he talks about me being irresponsible, and me not being a journalist. So this journalist, Piers Morgan, who sat at the head of the Daily Mirror newspaper at the height of the rape gang scandal in our country. Are we supposed to believe he didn't know there was a rape gang scandal in our country? He did not report on it. He hacked dead children's phones. He doctored pictures of our armed forces for torturing Iraqi prisoners, proven that he doctored them. So all these things, and yet he wants to look down and sneer down his nose upon me and my journalism. Whereas in reality, what has he actually done in journalism? Like, what is his position now? And with his lies, so he demanded severe retribution against a 15-year-old child. From his calls for severe retribution, it resulted in death threats, the family coming under attack, threats to rape the children. He still hasn't even owned that. He hasn't held his hands up and said, look, I fucked up. I got it wrong. And that's what he did. And he got it wrong to a child. And do you know what else he done? He sat down with Andrew Tate. And the knock-on offence, when he goes on about me, he sat down with Andrew Tate and he said to Andrew Tate, your mate is encouraging violent attacks against mosques, talking about me. That had 8 million views. The next day after that, my mum and dad got a knock on the door by the police, giving them an Osmo warning for endangerment to their life. I had to fly my mum and dad to Portugal the next day after Piers Morgan's irresponsible reporting, which is what it is. Not just irresponsible, the downright lies that he's told about me. So he keeps going on about now, after having me blocked for 4 years, after the last time I spoke to him on Good Morning Britain, which was when after the Ariana Grande concert, when I tried to discuss important topics, and that, when I went into that discussion with Piers Morgan, I had every bit of dirt about his life, his sordid life, his lies. But I thought, I'm on national TV. The public need this conversation. They don't need a conversation of me against Piers Morgan. They need a conversation about Islam, about the mosques, about jihad, and about rapes and grooming and what's happening to our kids. That's what we need to use this 2 or 3 minutes to talk about. So whilst he tried to come at me with attacks against my personal character, I didn't want to return those attacks. I wanted to use the opportunity to try and have discussions around Islam. And that's what I did. And Piers, that discussion hasn't aged very well for Piers, because all he done was scream at me about showing some damn respect for the Quran because I held up the Quran. I've actually watched continued conversations recently where he sits and has a discussion with Jordan Peterson. He doesn't call him an Islamophobe. He doesn't attack him as far right. He doesn't scream at him to shut his mouth when Jordan Peterson is simply having the same discussions that I had. So Piers obviously has a problem with me. I'd say it comes down to, again, my class and the fact that these journalists don't like the fact that now they're the old media. We're the new media. it doesn't really matter, Piers, what you say. And I come out of jail and Piers was saying, oh, now he wants to sit down and talk to me. Why would I sit down and talk to you? I will talk to Piers Morgan, but when I finish talking to people who I see as far more relevant than him.
I know I have I have an answer, excuse me, as to like why Piers Morgan seems to all of us, looking from the outside, seems to be swaying his opinion from, look, beginning of this war, we saw Piers very quickly come out, condemn the 7th of October, condemn Hamas, get people on, really challenge them and get them thinking. I think one of the brilliant things that Qatar has been able to do is find a way to hook people on either earlier at some point during this war, realizing the influence that he or she may have. I'll get to that in a second, based on their audience and based on the people that they can speak to help bring them in onto their narrative. For example, Piers Morgan, if you look at the beginning stages of October, November, December 2023, if you go back to the comments of the videos, you'll see an incredible amount of people who were also saying what Hamas did was atrocious. Anybody that isn't willing to condemn this publicly is a monster, like Mohammed Hijab, who he had on. And by the way, him and Mohammed don't have a great relationship because he's been pretty utterly disrespectful. But a lot of Piers' viewers have remained the same. It has evolved a little bit, but his audience has predominantly been more or less some of the same people. Obviously, people have tuned out, but Piers has always had a big fan base. And what you see today is Piers is platforming just sort of 75, 80, maybe 90% one side of this conversation, of this conflict. And then when he does have people on that are trying to bring in the Israel narrative, it's now him combating and challenging that school of thought. It's really heavily going against what Israel is doing right now at this stage in the war. And if you think about it, it's actually brilliant on his part, because what he gets to say is that my thoughts and feelings about Israel couldn't have existed in October, November, December, because the war was only 2 to 3 months in, right? And now we're looking at September 2025. We're 1 month away from hitting the 2-year mark. And what he gets to say is like, I wouldn't have known that at this point, this is what Israel was going to do. This is what Gaza was going to look like. And then have all of these different things come up, such as starvation and famine and the video footage and the destruction and all of these things. And because of that, Qatar is brilliantly able to tap into people like him or Miss Rachel, who didn't have a lot of information in the beginning. But since the war has gone on for so long, it is an incredible benefit to Israel's enemies. Qatar, the Muslim Brotherhood, these radical Islamists who are able to seep into the minds and influence and theory of Western civilization, and those people like Piers Morgan or Miss Rachel, who Miss Rachel, obviously, it's a sweet spot because she spends her entire life working on childhood education. She teaches kids letters and shapes and colors and numbers and sings to them and has fun songs and has, very cool aesthetically put together YouTube videos with the largest the largest childhood education platform on the internet. A YouTube channel, between her YouTube, her Instagram, her Facebook, she's reaching billions of people a month. Okay? The thing is, none of these individuals are willing to talk about any other atrocities either occurring or that have occurred within the same ideology that we are seeing the atrocity occur between Israel and Palestine. The scale might not be the same, but the ideology is the same. Now, I have here on my screen, I don't have it on the screen that you're seeing, but I'm going to read it off. Cited estimates for genocides and mass atrocity death tolls in places that I'm going to name off that are all related to the same fundamentalists, these radical Islamists who are choosing war and violence and oppression and discrimination against other people, especially ethnic minorities. In Armenia, the Ottoman Empire, there is an estimated between 664,000 and 1.2 million people killed. In Syria, the civil war from 2011, and you could actually, even though the Assad regime has been overthrown, there is still war there because al-Jalani and his regime are slaughtering ethnic minority Christians on the southern border of Syria and the northern border between Israel and the southern border of Syria, including the Druze community. Roughly 580,000 to 656,000 total deaths. In Lebanon, the civil war from 75 to 90, 120,000 people killed. In Sudan, roughly 300,000 people killed in Darfur. I was in Boston Commons during that period of time. I went with my mom and a friend of hers. We did a moment of silence with thousands of people to show their solidarity for what was going on during the Darfur genocide in the early 2000s. In Iran, mass killings. Kurds, over 10,000 Kurds killed during 1979, when the regime came into power. Yemen, 2015, almost 400,000 deaths. Do you guys, like, where is this narrative? Because if we're going to choose to talk about the Middle East, why are we not talking about everybody involved in the Middle East? Why are we not talking about that? It doesn't make sense. You can't talk about the southern border of the United States with Mexico and the issues happening there with illegal immigration, people crossing the border. You can't talk about the United States and the situation that states like Texas have, if you're not going to talk about Mexico. You can't talk about Russia if you're not going to talk about Ukraine. You can't talk about North Korea if you're not going to talk about South Korea. Why are we not also talking about Egypt? Why are we not also talking about Jordan? Why are we not also talking about Lebanon and Syria and Morocco and Libya and Sudan and Yemen and Iraq and Iran? Why? Why are we not talking about this region as a greater whole? I don't understand. Candace, Tucker, Piers, they refuse to acknowledge these things. And all of the people who are against Israel, they refuse to acknowledge these things. Muslims refuse to acknowledge and talk about these things. And when these things come up, they get very uncomfortable. Very uncomfortable. Anyways, don't be surprised by these people's like mood swings and changes. Piers is also very much benefiting from this monetarily, and he took the popular vote, right? The popular vote apparently is to hate Israel because it's popular, not because it's based on any fundamental logic or reasoning or critical thinking, because it's popular. Can you guys imagine if the court system in the United States ruled people guilty or not guilty based on popularity, not based on reason and logic? Imagine that. Thank you so much for all your support. See you guys next time. Here are 4 ways you can help us grow if you believe in our mission. On Buy Me a Coffee and PayPal, you can directly contribute to helping this message grow and reach more people across the world. If you want to join the inner circle, join our Patreon with different tiers, and of course, our Discord community, which is free with people from all across the world. The links to every single one are in the description. And last but not least, to the other Barak community, I love you. Ani ohev otchem. I'll see you guys next time.